Now welcome to my favorite part of the course, which is redeeming points, spending those hard-earned points and miles for incredible travel experiences that you're going to remember for the rest of your life. Let's just recap what we've learned so far. We've learned all about how to collect points, how to sign up for the various loyalty programs. We learned that you can earn points not just by flying and staying in hotels, but we learned that you can also earn points in a variety of different ways, such as shopping online, through various apps, and through various other deals with credit cards and multiples of points with credit cards, all that good stuff. And we've also learned a whole lot more about how this all works. So if at any point you need a little bit of a refresher, feel free to jump back into some of those other courses earlier on and review them as well. But going forward, we're going to talk all about how to spend those points. And then later on, I'm going to show you how to have a really good time traveling like a pro. And when we're all done here, like I promised, we're just going to book something on a whim, book a flight within 48 hours, and get on out of here. And I'm going to take along for the ride. So now we're going to explore the various redemption options available for using points and miles. I'm going to talk a little bit about the flexibility and the value of redeeming points for travel, as well as other things that you can redeem points for. Some of the things we've been able to do, like fly first class in Singapore Airlines suites, or experience like a last minute cruise. Some of those things would not be possible without points and miles. So my strategy for maximizing the value of points and miles is always to earn as many points as I can on cards that I can transfer the points. So for me, those are the American Express cards. I use both the Platinum card and a no-fee business card. I also use a Citi Thank You Rewards card that earns up to triple points on things like gas and restaurants that we use often, and also use the Capital One Venture X card, which has a lot of great travel perks as well, and also earns double points on everything. It earns up to 10x points on certain categories like rental cars and any hotels that you book through their portal. Now I want to talk about point valuation. If you think about your points like currency and we assign a value to them, it's a lot easier to determine how much they're actually worth and when you're actually going to get a really good deal. Now, as a good rule of thumb, I typically look to redeem points when I'm getting a minimum of 2 cents per point value. That means I'm essentially getting double what I would get if I redeem those points through the travel portal or something like gift cards or online shopping where they just give you 1 cent per point or sometimes even less. Sometimes you might only get half a cent per point. So my rule of thumb is always redeem travel when possible when you're going to get about 2 cents per point. Now with certain programs, that's not really possible. Like for example, with programs like JetBlue and Delta, they're a little bit greedy with how many points you need to redeem. You may not be able to get quite 2 cents per point. Anytime I'm going to transfer points out of my Amex account or my Citi account, I'm going to make sure that there's at least 2 cents per point in value there. Now beyond that, how I determine the value of my points is I deduct any fees that go along with that. And let's just keep it really simple. Let's say I had a flight that was $1,100 and maybe it was $100 in taxes that I had to pay and 50,000 points. Well, those 50,000 points would then be worth $1,000 towards my travel. So if I do the math, that's basically 2 cents a point if I break it down to the penny. The $100 in taxes that I had to pay, that's going to be a fixed amount that can vary anywhere from like $5 on the low end for some of your flights from the US, all the way up to I've seen as high as $1,000 or more for some flights with British Airways or even Emirates, where they charge really high surcharge fees to go along with any of the point redemptions that you make. So be careful of that. You definitely want to make sure that you're looking for the best deal, not just in the points redemption, but also keep in mind any surcharges or fees that you might have to pay too. Now, in terms of how to get the most value out of your points when you redeem them, we're going to basically look at using multiple ways to book the same flight. So for example, if I want to book a business class flight on Lufthansa from Boston to Frankfurt, if I were to look at a few different areas where I could book that, an example would be United Airlines. Another example might be on Avianca Life Miles. And you could probably hear my dog in the background, but we're just gonna keep rolling with it. And a third example would be to use Air Canada Aeroplan. Well, all those programs are going to accomplish the same thing. They're gonna allow me to book this flight with points, but they're not created equally in terms of what that's going to cost. If we take a look at United, for example, that's going to be 80,000 points or more for that flight. For Air Canada, we're looking at just 60,000 points. And with Avianca Life Miles, that's going to be 63,000 points. All of them are going to be roughly the same in terms of the taxes that they charge for it. And what we're going to see here is that if I had only It's really good comparing some different options, especially when you have points that you might be able to transfer to a few different programs. And later on, I'm going to make it really simple and give you like kind of a cheat sheet that will essentially guide you through which alliance is which. So you could be like, oh, what is Delta partnered with? And just look at the cheat sheet and be like, oh, these are all Delta's alliance partners. Sometimes you can actually get bonus offers where they'll give you even more points when you transfer those two. So I would definitely keep an eye out because, for example, even though it's a little bit more on the Avianca Life Miles, if you can transfer and get like 25% bonus when you transfer your miles over, that might be a better value. So keep an eye on all of them and definitely make sure you're getting the best value for the points that you have. Don't be afraid to shop around a little. A few extra minutes of searching online may actually save you quite a bit in terms of money or points. Now, occasionally you could stretch your rewards even further. There are a couple of airlines I'll give you examples of. One would be KLM Air France, and the other one is Singapore Airlines. And I'll share their deals websites down below. But these are typically refreshed on a monthly basis. And they'll have special promotions where they'll actually sell flights for a discount on points. So you might be able to get a certain flight that may be sold for like 70,000 points, maybe be 30% off the points for a limited time only. And essentially what they're doing is they're just trying to fill the planes on routes that might not be as heavily booked. But it's a really great way to make your points stretch a lot further. Now, my number one tip for redeeming points is going to be when you do it, because there's kind of a certain time period, and if you're not in that time period, especially if you're looking at flying in a premium cabin, you're just not going to have a good time finding points availability. So not saying that it's impossible, but really when you want to be looking at spending points through most airlines is either as soon as those flights are sold, so like the far end of the calendar, which depending on the airline, it's typically going to be like a year or so out. And then what I found the best availability to be is last minute. And I'm talking like really last minute, like maybe 3 weeks at most, on up to like the day or two before departure. What happens with premium cabins and with flights in general is that if there are certain flights that are undersold, they will often release more award space to basically fill up seats. So the airlines are going to be most profitable when all their seats are full, whether it be they're selling it with points or miles. You know, obviously, if they're not getting enough cash, they're going to be better off filling it with points than not having the seat filled at all. So what they'll typically do is like a week or two out, you'll see more availability become available. And then especially with airlines like Lufthansa, for example, that's when you might even be able to find first class availability. So those super premium awards like Lufthansa first class, British Airways first class, a lot of times you can book them much more often if you're looking very last minute. And that's why I pointed out earlier, there's a photo behind us where Amanda and I were literally at the Houston airport about to fly home. We had a few more days off, and she has a lot of family in England. So we actually, just on a whim, used our points. We spent $5 and 60,000 points each to fly in United Airlines business class all the way from London to Houston, which was like a 9-hour overnight flight. So that was a really good time. And, you know, if you were to book a flight like that cash last minute, it would just be a ridiculous amount of money, many, many thousands of dollars. So it definitely unlocks the world and makes everything a lot more accessible when you have a small stash of points available.